Hare Krishna. Uh-oh. No cartels. Or maybe give me a drum. I don't see. Drum. Drum. The blue one's good. Either blue or yellow. Yeah, he's got this one. It's all right. But also put a cover cushion down there. No, I need it now, but then put a cushion down. Put it there. In case you don't jump up and grab it. Okay. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vaiṣṇava Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vaiṣṇava Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaiṣṇavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All right. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam deving saraswatim vyasam Tato Jayamudирayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest We should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance and classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil. And loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, before we begin, just a note, today is the auspicious anniversary of the signing of the papers to make ISKCON, incorporating ISKCON in July of 1966. You can remember it. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm going to do that. But I put this in first because that's not part of the Bhagavatam. See? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 29th day of July, 2024, in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, HG Dravida Dasa Prabhupada. We are in Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 10, Prahlada, the best among exalted devotees, text 18. Okay. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhihi Pita Putaha Pitribhihi Saha Te Anagha Yat Sadho Asya Kule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta Pitrabhi Sahate Nagha Yat Sadho Sakule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Okay. That didn't work. Okay. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta Pitrabhi Sahate Nagha Yat Sadho Sakule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Okay. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta Pitrabhi Sahate Nagha Yat Sadho Sakule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta Pitrabhi Sahate Nagha Yat Sadho Sakule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta Pitrabhi Tadegana Yat Sadho Sakule Jato Bhavan Vai Kulapavanaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta. Go ahead. Pitrabi sahate nagha. Yat sadho sakule jato. Bhavan vai kulapavanaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Trisaptabhi pita puta. Pitrabi sahate nagha. Yat sadho sakule jato. Bhavan vai kulapavanaha. Anyone online?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta.
Trisaptabhi pita puta.
Pitribi Sahate Naga.
Pitrabi sahate nagha.
Yat Sadosya Kule Jato.
Yat sadho sakule jato.
Pavan Vai Kulapavanaha.
Bhavan vai kulapavanaha. Word by words. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Tri Saptabhi, 7 multiplied by 3. That is to say, 21. Pita, father. Putaha, purified. Pitrabihi, with your forefathers. Saha, all together. Te, your. Anagha, O most sinless personality. Prahlada Maharaj. Yet, because. Sadho, O great saintly person. Asya, of this person. Kule, in the dynasty. Jataha, took birth. Bhavan, you. Vai, indeed. Kulapavanaha, the purifier of the whole dynasty. Okay, so who's speaking now? Lord Nrsimha. The Supreme Translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Prahlada, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified, along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified. Purport. The word Tri Saptabhi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one's family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great-grandfather or even one's great-great-grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentions 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaiṣṇava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in what? I was born in the deepest darkness, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this benediction, or this response to Prahlada Maharaj's request, remember he made one request that his father would be saved, he wouldn't have to suffer for everything he did to him. And so this verse answers that and tells him much more than that. In other words, not just your father, but his father and father's father. And then we get the understanding in the purport, and other families you were born in that had nothing to do with this line. You know what I mean? Because we're coming down from one to another. And so there's all these other families, and they'll all be purified. Whoever is related to you by birth, however remotely, you'll be purified. That's the idea. Now, Prahlada has some famous descendants who are also in the demoniac family. And they're also very exalted. Who can give the most famous? Bali. But you know who else? Banasura. Yeah, Banasura. Banasura because he had so many arms. He had 1,000. He was a worshiper of Shiva, and he, as Shiva often does, he gives benedictions easily. So I don't know if he begged for the 1,000 arms, but he ended up with 1,000 arms. You know, powerful arms, and he would serve Shiva by playing the drums. You can imagine 500 drums he's playing or whatever with those, you know, all in time. So Shiva's very pleased with him, you know. And so there's a whole pastime. I'm not going to go into the detail, but he was you know, a demon. But he had a beautiful daughter, I think it was Usha. And yes, and she had a dream about her lover. And so she had a friend who was a artist, Chitralekha. That's what her name means. So Chitralekha said, well, we'll find out who he is because we want to see if we can, you know, contact him. So you start describing him, and she started describing this one, that one. She was drawing this, that. And Usha finally drew someone who looked exactly like who she had dreamed of, which is Krishna's grandson, I think, Anuruddha. And so she blushed, you know, and she said, oh, that's him, you know. Said, oh, well, I have another power besides being able to draw so well. I can fly in the sky, so you just tell me where he is, and I'll go bring him back for you. So, she says, oh, well, he appears to be the grandson of Krishna, so he must be in Dwarka. So she flew to Dwarka and found him. I think he was sleeping. She brought him all the way back, and he wakes up, and he's with Usha in the inner quarters of the palace, of Banasura's palace. So they begin to have what we might call an affair today, you know. It's described in the Bhagavatam. Nice words. And finally, it became obvious to the guards, because, you know, this is the idea. They want to keep guard over his daughter, Banasura's daughter, so there can be no contamination. You know, she had various guards. And the guards were seeing that she had, as described in the Krishna book, she had unmistakable signs of having an affair. So they told Banasura. He said, what? You know, he was very angry. He rushed there, and sure, they were just, you know, dallying with each other. You know, she was giving him a flower or whatever, you know, in the inner quarters, you know. So they attacked him. He fended them off, you know, but they were outnumbered, so they arrested him. And eventually he got back to Dwarka. And so Krishna came there with an army to rescue his grandson, you know. And there was a battle. Now, he didn't kill Banasura. Banasura was in the line of Prahlada. But he did chop off 996 arms, leaving him with only 4. So that would have been a little bit traumatic for him. But anyway, that's one of the descendants. And of course, Bali is the most famous. And he was a demon, but he had a lot of devotional good qualities. And as you know, he offered Vamana Dev. You know, Vamana means it's a whole English thing, you know, because in modern American English, dwarf means someone who's small but also misshapen due to disease. That's a dwarf in American language. But I think in Oxford English Dictionary, it just means basically a midget, someone who's diminutive. He was diminutive but perfectly formed, you know, Brahmin. And he went to, there was a big sacrifice. Bali had just conquered the heavenly planets, you know. And so Vamana appears, and he walks into, you know, into the sacrificial arena. And Bali is very deferential, you know, to him. And he wants to offer him something. I'll offer you whatever you want. And but his guru, Shukracharya, was warning him, don't offer him anything. His Vishnu will take everything, you know. So Bali, being only superficially a demon, he says, oh, you know, you don't want me to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? I thought I was supposed to do that, so I'm not going to listen to you. I reject you, and I'm going to offer this Vamana Dev whatever he wants. So Vamana said, look, I'm a Brahmin, you know. A Brahmin has to be sacrificed with very little. I don't want the planet or anything like that. Just give me 3 steps of land, you know. And Prabhupada makes the point, and his souls, it gets a little confusing. You just hear it, his soul, but he's talking about the foot soul, the soul of the foot, is very small. So, you know, what could he, you know, so you know, Brahman says, no, Brahman has to be satisfied with every little thing he gets, you know. So the first step, he covers the whole universe, or the whole world. The second step, he covers the rest of the universe, and pierces through the covering, which is very thick. You know, he just suddenly is expanded to as big as the universal form, you know, and he's got these 3 steps, and he pierces, and you know what comes in? Who knows what comes through there? Huh?
Water.
Yes, and what happens to that water back there? That becomes the Ganges. Yeah, because it washes his feet, so now it's purified by the dust of Vamana's lotus feet. So that comes down. It's a whole chapter about the descent of the Ganges in the 5th canto. And the demigods are all bringing it down when their airplanes, you know, airplane load by airplane load, you down, it comes down. So anyway, so then Vamana says, well, you offered me 3 steps, and I've covered everything with a 2 step, so what am I going to do with my 3rd step? So Bali says, just put it on my head. That's okay. So he surrenders that way. And he becomes the exemplar, the acharya for what of the 9 processes? Come on, you guys. Atma Nivedana, the last one, because he gave everything, including himself, to the service of the Lord. So anyway, that's 2 of Prahlad's exalted. Well, one of them is really exalted. One of them is kind of, but he's saved. So this idea now, this whole idea of being concerned about your forefathers, this is part of the Vedic culture. This whole thing of offering pinda, the Shraddha ceremony, isn't that like for the wealth of the forefathers? So they'll be relieved of any sinful reactions, and they won't suffer as much like that. This is a very interesting thing, because you don't really have that in Western culture. You know, you may know your grandma. Very few of us may have remembered our great-grandmother when we were kids or something, but people don't usually live that long anymore. But the idea that you owe them, you know, because they're your forefathers, and without them you wouldn't exist, kind of thing, at least in this form. And you need to offer sacrifices to relieve them of sinful reactions, you know, and all this. The Pitra worship is not completely absent from the West. But you can see how there's this concern for relieving, if you can, people's sinful reactions. You know, especially those who you owe. You know, there's this famous verse, Devarshi bhutapta nrinam patrinam nakinkaro nayam rini tirajan sarvatmanayak sharanam shadanyam gato mukundam pariritikartam. Now the key word in this verse is rini. Does anyone know this verse? What a rini is? You probably know. Rini, R-N-I.
Yeah, it's like
a debtor.
a debt.
Someone who's in debt.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, someone who owes. So I knew you knew it, but you're just searching for the word. So this is a very nice verse, because it describes actually that we're debtors just by living here. You know, we don't often think of it, but we know that everything is personal, right? So there's a demigod behind everything. Even as Prabhupada sometimes said, even blinking your eyes, there's a God in charge of that. You can't do that without being the power, you know, that he runs, he or she. So that's the first, Deva, Rishi. Rishi means learned soul. They're teachers. You taught so many things, so you owe them. Devashi, Bhuta, creatures in general. Apta, your relatives, especially forefathers. Devashi Bhutapta, Devashi Bhutapta, Patrinam. Patrinam are the forefathers. And Kinkara, even your servants, you know, you owe them because they're performing nice service to you. So the point is that we just living, we are debtors, and we have to liquidate that debt. And if we don't, then we're sinful. That's an ordinary, you know, calculation. Rini Charajan. But this verse says you're not indebted to any of them if sarvatmanakyak sharanam sharanyam. If you take shelter of someone who's taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see? Sarvatma, with your whole body, mind, word, self. Sarvatmanakyak sharanam gato mukundam. You've gone to Mukunda already, even though you may be in this body. Because, and all the debts are liquidated. You don't know anyone. It's all, just like you can, if you have this card, that card, you have so many debt, you want to consolidate it so you pay one bill a month, right? Otherwise you miss one, you get into trouble. So that's a way of dealing with debt, making it easier to handle. So similarly, all these debts are liquidated if we take full shelter of Krishna, Krishna's representative. But of course, then you have a debt to your spiritual master that you have to try to repay, but you can't, because he's giving you the most valuable thing. So that's one way of thinking how entering into devotional service, which is just that, a life of service, recognizing, oh, I have to serve, I have to do this service for my spiritual master, for Krishna, for the people in general. If you're going out distributing books, you're trying to give them the most valuable thing for their welfare. They don't know it, but some of them are fortunate enough to take the first step, get a book, whatever it is. So that mood is very prominent in Vedic culture. The idea that, oh, if I can help my pitris, be relieved, then I should make this sacrifice. I should do this and go to Gaya. The Gaya is, Lord Chaitanya went there for the forefathers. So Prahlada he's showing that, but because he's so pure and because he's such a great devotee, he says, don't worry about it. Because he said, oh, please, relieve my father of all the sinful activities, reactions from what he did to me and everything else. But he says, oh, your father has already been purified, along with 21 forefathers in your family, so it just goes all the way back. Well, what does it mean that he's been purified? Because after all, he's still got 2 more births left in the Jai Vijay program. They've been cursed to take 3 births. All right, who's the next pair? Ravan and Kumbhakarna, his brother Kumbhakarna. And they're, of course, slain by, I don't know if they're both slain by Ram. I think Ravana certainly, but I think Lakshman may have slain Kumbhakarna. So he's purified, but it's going to take him a couple more births to get back to Vaikuntha. That's the whole idea. And then the third pair in Krishna Lila, Shishupal and Dantavakra. Dantavakra, yeah, they're both. Dantavakra was killed during the battle with Shalva, with the airplane. He's part of, he came out on the battlefield. And it's interesting because it's something that's not mentioned in the Krishna book. When we were studying working on the 10th canto in the 80s, I was in Miami, we were finishing the 10th canto. So there's this purport that's included in one of the Acharya's purports, quoted from the Padma Purana, that when Krishna was fighting Shalva, of course he killed Shalva. He had his ship was he had this airship that was given to him, and he was able to. Krishna shot that down, and Shalva comes down, and he slays Shalva. But Shalva had his army, and was this Dantavakra, who was a powerful. Shishupal had already been slain in the Rajasuya sacrifice, so he had this battle. Now, but Dantavakra was. And the geography is not exactly what we know as India now, because Dwarka is way on the east coast. And if you go to, west coast. And if you go off the west coast, because it's in the water. But if you go to Mathura, it's a long way from Dwarka, But somehow the battle was going on, and it's described that when Krishna killed Dantavakra, he was right across the Yamuna River from Mathura. And he took the opportunity to return then, which you don't find in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavatam, he never returns. But there he is. He went back to Vrindavan. And what did he do? He took everybody back to the spiritual world. But he left them and himself there in the Bhava expansion, like that, So if you go to Vrindavan, then everybody is still there. You can still experience it if you're advanced enough that you can actually, experience Krishna's Leela going on there. But it's all not visible to the ordinary eyes. But he did return after all those years, Anyway, it's interesting. So this is one of the wonderful character of Prahlada is spoken of here. Because you are most pure, your father has been purified. And this is one other point here, and I think we'll read one more verse. And that is that even for us, you find, generally you have parents, if you're young enough, or siblings or anything, that you're benefiting them just by being Krishna conscious. Because there's thinking of you. There's a tie there. There's a tie of concern, of how you're doing, of love. And because they're thinking of you, and you're a Hare Krishna, they're going to be thinking of Hare Krishna. I remember my parents, my father was never reconciled. On his deathbed, I remember him, when are you going to get out of that thing? I'd already been a devotee for 20 years. But my mother, she was great. She was a subscriber to Back to Godhead magazine. In those days, the magazine was one of our main preaching things. Every month we print it and we distribute it by the tens of thousands. So she would get that. And I remember visiting her once. She was, at that point, she was in an assisted living place in what is it? God, its name. Does anyone know where no, I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, it's a city in upstate New York, Ithaca, and with my brother, he was living there. And so I went to see her, as I would periodically. Hare Krishna. And I had a recording. At that time, the tapes, so I put the tape in, and it was Hare Krishna. It was Prabhupada's first record, that famous recording. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And we was dancing, and she was, and then the last visit I had, she was already in like a hospice at my brother's home, meaning don't call 911. And so he was gone. He went to visit his sons in Chicago, and with his wife and another younger boy. And so I was there with Mom, and then I must have told you this already. So I said, Mom, it's time for japa. And by that time, she was completely surrendered. Okay, what do I do? So I couldn't teach her the whole mantra at that point, by heart. So we went two names at a time. And it was very amazing. I was saying, Hare Krishna. And she said, Hare Krishna. Perfect pronunciation, We went on for about 15 minutes. I have it on recording. It's pretty amazing. And then I left, and then 2 weeks later, she passed, So it's good to try to engage, if your parents or your brother somehow, because they have a bond with you. And oftentimes they'll say, well, he's gone kind of crazy. He's a Hare Krishna. But still, they may come visit you or something, or you can give them some prasadam or whatever, So this is the ultimate, benediction, because Prahlada is so pure, then not only his father, but so many relatives are blessed by that. So if there's no comment or question on this point, I'm going to read one more. Let's see. Yes, Dr. Baxter, give him a mic. He's looking good with that garland. Look at him.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. I was just curious about what you were just talking about with the family. I have a sister who I don't talk to.
Uh-huh.
She stopped talking to me about 11 years ago. So is there just keep doing what I'm doing?
It might be hopeless to try to contact her at this point.
Yeah.
Although you can write her a letter or something, or an email. But you can because you're becoming a devotee, you're chanting, you got your paraphernalia, you're here. Therefore, you can pray for her that she'll think of you, and by thinking of you, if she knows that you're into Krishna, because you wrote her a letter, then she'll also think of Krishna at that time. So yeah, it's worth it. I mean, I remember when we were in, this is, when I first joined in '73, there's no radio, no internet, no TV, nothing, we're kind of cut off from the outside world. And they had to remind us, please call your parents once a week, so they know you're okay. So I called them, and that's how my mother, I told her about the magazine, what I'm working on. I was working on, so she got a subscription. I was able to get a subscription. But here's one funny story. I'll just leave it, and then we'll have a little time to read this. And that is that I'm working on the magazine, and I would write these articles that were like a one-pager. And there's this fame. Many of you know, some of you may not know, of the little allegory of the woman and the bird in the cage. You ever heard the bird in the cage? So the idea is that the body is the cage and the bird is the soul, okay? So the analogy is a wealthy woman goes to a fancy bird store in Manhattan, I'm sure they have that. And there's one beautiful bird in a beautiful cage. It's in gold, it has some jewels and everything. And so she has a lot of money, and she lays down $1,000 for the cage and the bird in the cage. She takes it home, and every day, she goes and she dusts that cage because it's, it's a beautiful cage, But she more or less forgets about the bird. and the bird is starving inside, you know. And eventually the bird dies because she neglects the bird. So the idea is that the real essence of our situation here with this body, with the soul in the body soul, is the soul. The body, after all, is just a vehicle to carry the soul. But we get too absorbed in the vehicle in the outtime, we forget the interests of the soul. So that was the whole idea of the little article. And we had a beautiful, wonderful artist in LA who could do, you know, colored drawings and paintings very quickly, like within a month. He did a nice drawing for this. And there was this older lady, you know, dusting off the cage and opposite the article. And she got the magazine. So I don't know if I had visited her or if she wrote me or something, but she was upset about that illustration because it looked like her. She thought that I had given them a picture of her. It was uncanny what an amazing resemblance it was. I had to explain it. No, Mom, it was just an accident. Believe me. All right, so I'm going to read the next word. Since you don't have it there, I'll just chant it myself. All right, text 19. Yatra yatra chamad bhakta prashanta samadarshinaha sadhabak samadacharas te puyante pikikataha. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well-behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. Prabhupada has this one paragraph purport, so we'll read another verse. Purport. Wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they and their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. And sometimes I think about, this place, because this place has been around for a while. Since '78 they got this building, and then they worked for a year. So it has its effect. Bhadri Maharaj can tell you stories about people, who were upset about us and complaining to the police or whatever about the noise and this and that. But the point is, favorably or not, they were thinking Hare Krishna. They were conscious of Krishna. And all the people who move in next door here, who have moved in, I'm sure they had to notify them. You're going to be next to the Hare Krishna temple, so they get up early and this thing. That's okay. So everyone, it purifies. If we're actually following nicely and we do a little local Harinam and whatever, and just the fact that they know the Hare Krishnas are there, even if they think, oh, wait, there goes those Hare Krishnas again. They're thinking Hare Krishna. It's very, very important. So that's what's going on here. Text 20. Sarvatmana nahingsanti bhutagrameshu kinchana uchavacheshu daityendra madbhava vikataspihaha. My dear Prahlada, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. And I think that was just one instance where Prabhupada didn't use the word envious, which he usually uses. But okay, that's it. No. Bhavanti purushaloke mudbhaktas tvamanuvrataha bhavan me kalu bhaktanam sarvesham patirupadrik. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya quotes a verse from the Skanda Purana. Vitetu tatvikan devan naradanins tataivacha Prahlada uttama konu Vishnu bhaktau jagatraye. There were many, many devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have been enumerated in Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20 as follows. Okay, this is a famous list. Svayambhu Naradakshambhu Kumara Kapilo Manoho Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balevaya Sakirvayam. Prabhupada doesn't give the translation here. This is the list of the 12 Mahajans. Mahajans means a great human being, And in this context, it means those who are, because this is spoken by Yamaraj, I believe. And previously, he says this famous line that Prabhupada always quote, Dharma, I'm losing my verses. This one I know. Translating this, Dharma is those words which are spoken by God. You see, Dharma to sakshat bhagavat panitam. And soon after that, he gives this famous list of the Mahajans. So you should recognize practically all of these. Of the 12 authorized devotees, no, this is not the list. So the 12 authorized devotees are Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva refers to Brahma, Narada Muni, Shambhu, that's Shiva, Kumara, the 4 Kumaras, Janaka Maharaj, the father of Sita, Bhishma Dev, Bali Maharaj, who I mentioned, and Vyasaki, which is Sukadeva Goswami. And then Vayam refers to we or me, and this is Yamaraj speaking, so he's also one of them. So Prahlada is in the list. And Prabhupada ends this purport of the 12 authorized devotees, Mahajans, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and so on. Manu is Swayambhuva Manu. Prahlada Maharaj is understood to be the best example of pure devotion. So this is very important. And so I think I'll leave it there. If there's any, it's 8:30 now. And just to review Prahlad's, okay, you have a question or a comment? Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such nice class. I had this kind of...
could you get that curtain for me? Yes.
I came to San Diego last year during this time, and I was in a mood of Bali Maharaj. Probably not but the mood was like this. That last year when we went to Rath Yatra, I gave my credit card to Balram Prabhu. So I was thinking that maybe brahmacharis, they don't have money, so maybe I'll give my whole credit card. It was with $5,000. It had $5,000.
Who did you give it to?
Balram Prabhu.
Oh, Balram.
I thought that, it will be $50 for brahmachari total. And when he gave it back to me, I think he used $1,000 out of it. so it was like a purifying experience for me, that even brahmacharis can take everything. Forget about Lord.
That's interesting. So you got a lot of punya from that. That's why you're sitting here. Purification. Okay, anyone else locally? Okay, go ahead, Govardhan.
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu. My mom and my dad, they went to my first initiation. And my father, he's the only one that came to my second initiation. But every time I visit my mom, I can tell she's always thinking about the temple, me. She's even mentioning Nelson, did you know Nelson is thinking about joining the temple, becoming like you? So like we said, the mother, they're always thinking about the...
She knew Nelson from before?
They're he's our next door neighbor.
Oh, next door neighbor. Yeah. Is that how we got interested? Okay.
We didn't talk for years, even though we saw each other. Anyway, there's a story behind it. But my mom, she's always thinking about the temple, me, like that. So
it's very auspicious. Vijay Krishna.
Dravida Prabhu, how may I serve you?
Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Then please serve us by asking a question. Yes, please.
Yes, my question is, why is it that among the 12 Mahajanas, in the perspective of Nrsimhadev, Prahlada Maharaj became the best example?
Why is he the best example of all these devotees?
Yes, that is my question.
Well, I mean, all I can say, I mean, this is what the Sringadev is saying, right? So you want me to question the Sringadev? No, not a good policy. I mean, it's hard to imagine anyone more surrendered. That in that whole traumatic, because it wasn't traumatic for him, it's more traumatic for the reader. When his father goes nuts and he says, just gives him off to his henchmen. I mean, can you imagine that? How covered he was. But also, you've got to open your mind. Yeah, but this is Jaya Vijay. Ultimately, he's going to go back, and resume his position. But so covered that he was ready to just, annihilate his son, and in so many ways. And then to realize what Prahlada's consciousness was when that was going on, which was complete indifference. He was so absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and that he wasn't even disturbed by that. And that him not being disturbed was extremely disturbing to his father, right? That's what his father was freaking out about, is that he couldn't do anything. And so he figured, okay, I'll do it myself, you know. But that was his fatal mistake. So the qualities of a devotee, especially, you see, the quality, I always think of that verse about the sadhu. Who's the sadhu? You know, titikshava, karunika, sudidaksarvadehinam. It's so wonderful. It describes Prabhupada and all the great devotees and Prahlada. Tolerant and merciful. You know, that's the first two. Tolerant, merciful. Just like anyone who preaches has to be both of those things. You have to feel compassionate for these people, and at the same time you have to tolerate their indifference or worse, you know. And Prabhupada gives the example of Jesus Christ, you know. Even in the moment he's being crucified, and what does he say? Forgive them. Just like, you know, he gives an example like that. So he embodies the qualities, 26 qualities of a devotee. You know, Titikshivaka Suridak Sarvadehinam, the friend of every living entity. You know, just like when he got a chance after, you know, he couldn't be, the teachers couldn't change him, and Hiranyakashipu was upset. He said, "Don't worry, we'll eventually bring him around. You know, he's just a young boy." So what did he do? Did he just lay low, you know, and say, "Okay, I'll chant Hare Krishna in my mind"? No, he immediately took the risk of preaching. So he's doing, he's an example of all the qualities in the line of devotees, and especially Lord Chaitanya's line. Prabhupada took the same risk, you know, and certainly, you know, he was inspired. You know, he had so many examples. Of course, his own Gurudev. You know, there was a plan to assassinate Bhaktisiddhanta. You know, that's very, very famous. But the guy who was going to do it, when he found out it was such a great saint, he said, "No, I might have done it for others, but you know, I can't. I just got to warn you about it." You know, and so he wasn't harmed. But he's just showing these qualities of the devotee to the nth degree. That's the way I see it, and it's very similar to Haridas Thakur, who also risked everything to tell the truth. He wouldn't stop chanting. You know, there's no big deal to stop chanting, and say, there's a phrase that you say, the Muslims say, I believe in Allah. They were trying to get him to say that to come back on the Muslim side, you know, but he wouldn't, and so he risked everything, and they beating him, and he didn't feel anything. Lord Chaitanya was on his back, you know. So that's the idea, is that he is a perfect example of all these qualities, and I always remember how it's so critical for the preaching mission. Those two verses I always bring back, you know, in the prayers, the famous prayers. Oh my Lord, Shingadev, I have no trouble at all, because I'm already across the river Vaitarani. I'm with you. Anytime I want, Twadvi Yagayana Mahamanta Magna Chitta. Anytime I want, I can chant your glories and immerse myself in an ocean of nectar. Even though they may be putting me in boiling oil, I'm still going to chant your glories, and then, you know. So that's what he's saying. But I am lamenting for those who have turned away from you. Vimukha means they turn their face away from Krishna. And what are they after? Maya Sukhaya. And it's a big burden to try to get those little, you know, flickering pleasures of Maya's under Maya's realm. Maya Sukhaya Bodhamudvan, so they're bearing this great burden. Bodhamudvahito Vimudhan. For these fools, you know, very, you know, extremely foolish fools, Vimudha, I'm lamenting for them, and therefore I have to stay in the cities and preach. That's the next verse, rather than go off to the secluded mountains and just for my own liberation. Swava Mukti Kama. You know, this is just like Sridhar Swami. Those who have read a little bit about the commentaries, or you heard the tape, that you find that Sridhar Swami is the first commentator in Bhagavatam. And he says about the second verse in the Bhagavatam, Dharma Project Kaitava Dharma, Dharma Project, here in the Bhagavatam, we're kicking out all the cheating dharmas. And one of the cheating dharmas is Mayavad, this just wanting your own liberation. Svabhamukti Kama. And Prahlada, he echoes there in his own prayers there. So because of all those qualities of his, his complete equipoise, his unlimited devotion to Krishna, and is willing to preach and take risks, he is the emblem of, even amongst these Mahajans, that we need to follow. That's my idea. But Abhirala has something to add.
No, actually I have one question.
So let me ask, Vijay, was that okay?
Dravida Prabhu, beyond, as to be expected, beyond okay. Again, such a beautiful, most beautiful answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Prabhupada. Go ahead.
So in this verse, Narasimhadev says that your forefathers, but I have read in Prabhupada's Krishna book that the next generations will also get liberated of pure devotees. And also, one of the sentence in this purport suggests that even the your previous life's parent might also get liberated. Like for, I'm reading the second from the last sentence. Before the present family in which one has taken the birth, one must have been born in other families.
Yeah.
So does it suggest that even your past life's parents?
Yeah, that's what is explaining here. This is unusual because I don't know if this is mentioned anywhere else. It's not just your line, your seminal line, so to speak, that is blessed, but you may have you're taking birth in different families, coming down, and they're also blessed. You don't know. All of the different families that you've appeared in, soul. You only know the one, that, this is my great grandfather and it's coming down, But it's very rare that you're going to also appear in the next generation, right? You maybe appear of course, if you don't have any Krishna consciousness, you could be born as a dog, so you don't know where you're going. But what he's saying here is that whatever families you've taken birth in, they'll also be benefited from your devotion, because there's a connection there. You have some connection. All right, let us adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. I'm trying to figure out how far I read.